Here it is, people, the moment that we have all been waiting for and dreading. AI generated content is against Google guidelines. Google says AI generated content is against Google guidelines. So we're going to get into this. Give me a moment. We're going to get into this. As you know, I am a huge fan of AI and the technology and all the things that it's going to be able to do and can already do now. I use Jasper. I've tried out a bunch of different tools, and I love AI as a writing assistant and to help me scale my content. So this, I knew I was going to read this post. This is brand new. It's from SEJ, so the Search Engine Journal. I don't know if you know about that site. I only came across it the other day, but this post is circulating on Facebook groups, and it's brand new. It says 14 hours ago by Matt Southern, and it's a 5-minute read. So I've put the link in the description if you want to go and check it out, but we're going to go through it right now to see exactly what Google has said. Are they banning AI content? Are they going to come for you and take your sites down and give you a penalty? And was everybody that was against AI writers, are they correct? Are all of these AI companies going to shut down? Let's get into it. Okay, so it says Google search advocate John Mueller says content automatically generated, already keyword automatically generated with AI writing tools is considered spam according to Search Engine's Webmaster Guidelines. This topic is addressed during a recent Google search Central SEO office hours hangout in response to a question about GPT-3 AI writing tools. So we're talking specifically about all the new tools that are on the market today, from Jasper to Niches to there's so many, Outranking.io, one that I'm using. There are so many of those tools. But what I think the focus is on is things like Article Forge, which generate an entire article. But we're going to get into that. So Mueller says that content written by AI falls under categories of auto-generated content, which could lead to a manual penalty. But he also goes on to say that Google systems lack the ability to detect AI generated content without the assistance of human reviewers. So what does that mean, folks? Let's read between the lines. If you are generating, which is something I've always said, if you're generating an entire article or going into Jasper and clicking compose, and not editing the text, not editing, giving it your own voice, just not doing anything, then of course it is just spewing out repetitive jargon. A lot of the times it's just copying the thing. If you don't go through it, it will copy the same, it will end the sentences or the paragraphs in the same way. So of course, if somebody goes through it, if a human goes through it, they'll be able to see that in the same way that you could go through it and see it. But your site would first need to be flagged for that manual penalty for it to be able to be seen, to be able to detect it, because Google's system can't automatically detect it. And that's the key point. That's the thing that I'm always trying to drive home when I talk about AI. Because what you should be doing is using it as a tool, as an assistant to go through to go and make good content. So to help you make it quicker, so you use your search, use the SERPs, gather the data, make sure everything is factual. It should help you make the content quicker. There really should be no way for a human to go through. I'm completely confident that I could send Google a bunch of articles, some written by people I've hired, and some written by myself, and with AI assistance, and they wouldn't be able to. In fact, they'd probably detect the ones written by my lower costing writers. They'd probably say, I think that one might be AI, but they'd have no way of knowing unless I've told them, guys, these articles here are written by AI. They have no way I'm confident that they'd have no way of knowing, because there's nothing, that there isn't a trail being left behind. They're not articles written on the blockchain with proof that they are AI generated. It's just crazy that people actually think and are scared that that is the case. So let's go through this a bit more. Regardless of the tools used to create it, content written by machines is considered automatically generated. Again, I get it, but they're not supposed to know. They're not supposed to know unless you start leaving a note at the bottom of your article saying this content was written by AI. Then there's no way they should know. Now, what I do agree with, okay, so it says, as Mueller is quick to point out, Google's position on auto-generated content has always been clear. For us, these would essentially still fall under or into the category of automatically generated content, which is something we've had in Webmaster Guidelines since almost the beginning. So GPT-2, of course, it was unintelligible. You couldn't, you could look at it and just see that it was junk and it was just covering different keywords, but it wasn't saying anything. So it's almost like lorem ipsum. People have been automatically generating content lots of different ways, and for us, if you're using machine learning tools to generate your content, it's essentially the same as if you're just shuffling words around or looking up synonyms or doing translation tricks that people used to do. Not entirely, because if the article is written in a way that it answers people's questions, makes sense, has a voice, again, if somebody can read it, if a human can read it and not see anything wrong with it, they go to the site and they read it and they get the information and they go, then there's no issue. Or there would be no issue. And it says, my suspicion is maybe the quality of the content is a little bit better than the really old school tools, but for us, it's still automatically generated content. And that means for us, it's still against the Webmaster Guidelines. So we would consider it to be spam. Okay, so then it goes on to say, can Google detect AI generated content? A follow-up question is asked regarding Google's ability to identify content written with machine learning tools. Can Google understand the difference between content written by humans and content written by machines? Mueller makes no claims about Google. Mueller makes no claims about Google detecting AI written content automatically. That's the key here. They can't automatically detect AI written content. Although if Google's web spam team happen to find it, they're authorized to take action on it. So we can't see, there's a site called Neens, I forgot what it, and that site is just full of spam articles. I don't know if it's still up. I've not seen it in my searches for a while. But Google, a site like that was ranking for a bunch, thousands of first place terms. A site like that can't even be automatically detected by Google. It has to first be flagged, and then Google's web spam team could then come in and say, okay, this is clearly spam content. So your site first has to show up on their radar and be flagged, and then a human has to go through it. That's the key thing here, is that for them, as they say many times, for us, they can't see this, they can't even see the automatically generated GPT-3 text. They don't have a model of the language system used. That's not to say that they won't get a model of that in future. I guess they would have to get hold of it themselves and I don't know, add it to their own AI or their own algorithms so it can detect these, whatever the model is. I don't know enough about AI or OpenAI or how any of that works to say for sure if Google will be able to, get hold of that and just implement it. If it's that simple, don't know. But as it stands, Google doesn't have the ability to detect it in its raw form. So it doesn't stand a chance detecting it when you are editing it. That is the key takeaway here. And that should shut down those rumors or whatever people have to say about, okay, with GPT-2, Google could grab it and blah, 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 blah. It's a completely different game. Because when people were using GPT-2, they weren't even trying to improve the content. They were just like, okay, right, this is English. This has the keywords in it. And it was just a different game. Google was a different monster to tackle at that time. And the aim of the game was completely different. But as now the aim of the game is content, producing good content, people using AI tools to assist them in creating good content, that's a whole different game, okay? That's how I see it. It's a whole different game. And Google, they've said it. They said, I can't claim that. But if, there's a big if, there's a huge if we happen to come across and see maybe possibly that there is something that was automatically generated, then our web span team will maybe then look into it, and then maybe we'll then see that was possibly generated, and then you'll get a manual penalty. That's what I've read. That's what I've read. And I don't know how the future will evolve here, but I imagine like any other of these technologies, there will be a little bit of cat and mouse game. So yeah, some people get away with a lot. Like I've said, that site probably just put somebody's site on blast, but I don't care. It's just a trash site. Some sites will get away with it. So as you've seen, there are sites that are putting a ton of AI content up, generating tons and tons of text using API and publishing it straight to the site. Right now, they're making probably an absurd amount of money. As you saw from that clip that I just shared, they've got a ton of ads on there. They're being approved by ad networks. So for them, those would probably be the sites that will be flagged and then manually reviewed before anybody else, because they are actually using it in its raw form and abusing it. And those are the sites that I guess Google is talking, because it's quite obvious. But I don't think they care. Short term, they're making bank, and then they're going to go off and get onto the next thing. But for us who want to be in the game for the long run and want to actually create good quality content that can stand up for a few years, we're putting in a lot of time, and we are using AI assistants, and we are hiring writers, and we're doing everything we can to put out content at scale. This method, I do not think you need to worry. I do not, hand on heart, I'm willing to die on this hill. I don't think that is anything us creative people that are creatively using these tools to create, I don't think that is our problem. I don't think that is our battle. And we should continue to use the tools in the way that we are using them creatively to create good quality content. So from our recommendations, if we see, so they need to be flagged, they need to be recommended to Google for the human team to then go and check. And then if they see that, then they'll go and look into it. So, check the post out. It's really good. There's a video there of the actual conversation where the question had been put to the Google rep, and the conversation began. So here's the key takeaways again. What does this mean for your website? I think the biggest takeaway from the Q&A is that the algorithms are not able to detect content generated by language models such as GPT-3. Okay? So again, not to say they will never be able to detect it, but in its raw form right now, it's not detectable. So that's one layer of protection. And then the next layer would be edit the content, make good content. Make sure you are covering all bases. You're tackling the user intent. You're interlinking. You're adding your images. Everything's relevant. You've gone the extra mile. You're not just copying and pasting it. You're editing it. You're really just using the tools to help you, just bulk up your content, which is what I do. And everything seems to be going well, and I'm not worried. They've said it. Artificial intelligence is being used by media, universities, other organizations. AI is not the bad guy. AI is used in so many different things. It seems like only when it comes to SEO and blog posts, AI is the bad guy, and the people have all these things to say about it. but they're probably using it behind closed doors, which is the funniest part. But AI is not the bad guy. And I think there are ways that are more sinister that you could use AI, like the deep fakes. And when we go down that rabbit hole, it becomes very murky territory. And that is something we're going to have to deal with in the future. But right now, writing blog posts with AI assistants, guys, please do not be so worried that you don't try these tools out and see how they can help you scale your content business. If you are on a budget and you're trying to build out your site, you need to use all the tools available to you. You need to learn how to use the tools. And when I say all the tools available to you, I don't mean just go out and use every single piece of SEO software. I mean the tools that are there to make your job easier. I think you owe it to yourself and to your site and to your future business to try those things out. And like I said, a lot of people seem to be talking down on AI. And I don't feel like there's enough grounds to do it. I don't feel like it, because it's like they are comparing two completely different things, which is kind of what Google stated, which is, in the raw form, click and compose or automatically generating an entire article is completely different to using it as an assistant. So, I mean, you have the ability to think for yourself. The information's out there. Do what you must. But that's my take on it. Let me know what you think in the comments. Are you using AI tools? Are you considering? Are you holding off because you're worried? Please let me know what you think in the comment section. What I might do a case study. I might do a case study of some sort where I put together about 4 or 5 different blog posts and do a poll and get you guys to vote on which one you think is AI or completely human written, and which one you think is AI generated or AI assisted. Let's just see if you can, let's just see what the results are. I think I'm going to do that. I really want to. I don't know if I've got the time to dedicate to it, but I think it would be an awesome way to really see, because then it would be multiple humans that are actually in this content creation game to go through and check these articles out. And it would be very interesting to see how well you guys do that. Can you actually detect if it's AI? Yeah, so let me know, guys, if that sounds like a good idea. You want to see me put together this the ultimate AI test, and see if we can actually, if we can actually detect AI generated or AI assisted content in comparison to completely human written content. Let's see. Let's actually see, because that will really be the decider, won't it? If Google have stated that they can't, if their computers can't automatically detect it, and they rely on humans to detect it, we are humans and we should be able to also detect it. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know what you think in the comment section. That's it, guys. Peace.